Peppa Pig, the biggest muddy puddle in the world. The biggest muddy puddle in the world. Once upon a time, Mummy Pig and Daddy Pig were tucking Peppa and George into bed. "There's so much rain," Peppa said. "That means there will be muddy puddles to jump in tomorrow," Mummy Pig smiled. The splish, splash, splosh of raindrops on the window sang Peppa and George to sleep, dreaming of muddy puddles. While Peppa and George slept, it rained, and rained, and rained. It rained so much that the next morning, when Daddy Pig ran out to jump in a muddy puddle, he landed straight in a massive pool of water.
"Oh, who put all this water here?"
Daddy Pig said as he swam back to the house.
"And where are all the muddy puddles?"
asked Peppa. Oh, look, and there's Mrs. Duck.
Quack, quack, quack.
"Our house looks like a desert island."
Peppa laughed, looking at all the water. "Oh dear," said Mummy Pig. "How will we get our food?" Granny Pig and Grandpa Pig arrived on their boat.
"Ahoy there!"
Grandpa Pig said.
"Wonderful boating weather."
"Do you need anything from the shop?" Granny Pig asked.
"Can we come too?"
Peppa said.
"Yes, then you can help us get shopping for everybody,"
Grandpa Pig said. "Polly can be our shopping list. She's very good at remembering things," Granny Pig said, beaming at Polly. "Who's a clever parrot?"
"Squawk! Who's a clever parrot?"
Polly copied. Polly was good at copying what people said. Peppa, George, Grandpa Pig, Granny Pig, and Polly Parrot sailed across the water. It was almost as much fun as jumping in a muddy puddle. Each house was like its own desert island. They sailed from house to boat to submarine, asking if people needed anything from the shop. "Do you need anything from the shop?" "Chocolate, please," Susie Sheep said.
"Squawk! Chocolate!"
Polly Parrot copied.
"Ruff! A newspaper and a comic, please."
Grandad Dog and Danny Dog said.
"Squawk! Newspaper, comic."
Polly Parrot copied.
Cheese, please."
Grampy Rabbit said.
"Squawk! Cheese."
Polly Parrot copied. When Grandpa Pig's boat arrived at the supermarket, Miss Rabbit was all alone. "Silly, isn't it? A little bit of rain and everyone stays at home. What can I get you?"
"Polly has a list,"
Peppa said proudly.
"Squawk!"
Polly Parrot opened her beak and said,
"Who's a clever parrot? Who's a clever parrot?"
"Oh dear." Polly Parrot had forgotten the list. Luckily, Peppa remembered what everyone wanted. Grandpa Pig sailed back from submarine to boat to house. "Cheese!" please, Peppa said.
Thank you, Peppa,
Grampy Rabbit said.
Newspaper and comic,
Peppa said.
Ruff. Thanks, Peppa,
Grandad Dog and Danny Dog said. It was lucky Peppa was going to the shops, said Mummy Sheep, or else we'd have nothing for dinner.
here's your chocolate, Susie,
Peppa said. Oh, said Mummy Sheep. Peppa and George arrived back home in the evening. Did you have fun sailing with Grandpa? Mummy Pig asked.
yes, I remembered what everyone wanted,
Peppa yawned.
but there were no muddy puddles.
George snorted in agreement. Maybe there will be some muddy puddles tomorrow, Daddy Pig said. The next morning, the sun was shining brightly in the clear blue sky. Polly Parrot flew with a sprig of leaves in her beak to show them all that the water had gone. She landed on Grandpa Pig's boat that was now stuck on Peppa's front lawn. "Oh," Granny Pig said, looking out from the boat. "I wonder what kind of mess the flood has left." And what did they see? The houses that were once desert islands were now back to normal, sitting on top of their hills. The water that Peppa and George sailed through was now gone, and instead, at the bottom of Peppa and George's hill was the biggest muddy puddle.
Squelch, squelch, hee, hee, squelch,
in the world. And Peppa and George got very muddy. And that was the biggest muddy puddle in the world. Peppa Pig, Tooth Fairy. Peppa and George are eating their favourite food, spaghetti. Suddenly, something falls onto Peppa's plate.
What's that?
Peppa cries.
it's your tooth. Ho, ho, ho.
Daddy Pig laughs. If you put the tooth under your pillow tonight, the Tooth Fairy will pay you a visit. She will take the tooth and leave you a shiny coin, says Mummy Pig. Good night, Peppa. Good night, George, says Mummy Pig.
Good night, my little piggies,
Grunts Daddy Pig. Peppa puts her tooth under the pillow for the Tooth Fairy.
Let's stay awake all night and see the Tooth Fairy,
says Peppa. George giggles.
George, where's the Tooth Fairy?
Peppa asks.
She's very late.
But George is so tired, he has fallen asleep.
Oh, I'm not going to sleep. I'm...
snores Peppa. When everything is quiet, something appears at the window. The Tooth Fairy has arrived, but Peppa is fast asleep. The Tooth Fairy pushes a shiny coin under the pillow and takes Peppa's tiny tooth. Peppa! George, wake up! It's morning, says Mummy Pig brightly.
Did the Tooth Fairy come?
Daddy Pig asks. No, says Peppa sadly.
Let's look under your pillow,
says Daddy Pig.
Look, Peppa! The Tooth Fairy has been, and she's left you a coin.
Hooray! Peppa laughs. Next time I will stay awake and I will see the Tooth Fairy. And that was Peppa Pig, Tooth Fairy, Peppa Pig, A Trip to the Moon. It is a lovely sunny day, and George and his friend Edmund are playing with their space toys in the garden. Oh dear, Edmund's space toy has landed on Peppa's head. She is not happy.
Are you going to the moon, boys?
Asks Daddy Pig. Moon, says George. It's just boring space stuff for babies, Daddy, says Peppa. It's not real.
Space is real, Peppa,
replies Daddy Pig. Mummy Pig tells everyone there is a show at the museum that is all about the moon.
That sounds fun. Shall we go and see it?
Asks Daddy Pig. George and Edmund laugh. They want to see the show. At the museum, they all buy tickets. Are we really going to the moon? Peppa asks. No, Peppa, it's just pretend, Miss Rabbit tells her. Mr. Rabbit is the tour guide. This way for a trip to the moon, he calls, leading them inside. Prepare for takeoff! When they are all seated in the rocket, a voice booms, Blast off! We live on a planet. Does anyone know what it's called? Mr. Rabbit asks.
Earth,
Daddy Pig guesses. That's right! Mr. Rabbit smiles. And what is the moon made of? Mr. Rabbit wants to know next.
The moon is made of cheese, of course.
Daddy Pig jokes. But Mr. Rabbit doesn't find it very funny. No, the moon is made of rock. This is a very serious tour, so no jokes, please. It is pretend, though, isn't it? Peppa asks. Yes, Peppa. If it was the real moon, you could jump over my head, Mr. Rabbit tells her. Gravity is what keeps us on the ground, and it is weaker on the moon, so you can jump higher. Some big rubber bands drop down, and Mr. Rabbit straps everyone in. Peppa and the others feel like they are jumping on the moon. It is so much fun. Miss Rabbit tells them to say cheese. Moon cheese! As she takes a picture. It is the end of the tour, so Miss Rabbit takes everyone to the moon shop. How about some real moon cheese? Says Miss Rabbit.
How much is it?
Asks Daddy. £5, please, says Miss Rabbit.
The £5?
Snorts Daddy Pig. It's all for a good cause, says Miss Rabbit. I like the moon now because it's very interesting, says Peppa, holding a picture of everyone bouncing on the moon.
and very tasty,
laughs Daddy Pig, eating his yummy moon cheese. And that was Peppa Pig, A Trip to the Moon. Peppa Pig Bubbles. Peppa and George are drinking orange juice.
Look at all the tiny bubbles,
says Peppa. Peppa wants to make bigger bubbles. Peppa and George blow through their straws. Bubble, says George. Peppa and George go into the garden to blow more bubbles.
Dip the stick in the bubble mixture.
Peppa tells George.
Now take a big breath and blow.
Peppa blows a big bubble. Next, it's George's turn. But he doesn't have enough breath to blow bubbles. Lift the stick and wave it around, says Mummy Pig. Bubble, says George. Now George can make bubbles too.
Making bubbles is even more fun if you run along,
says Daddy Pig. George runs, waving the wand to make a stream of bubbles.
Wait for me,
calls Peppa, chasing him. George is having fun making bubbles, and Peppa is having fun popping them. Pop!
I love bubbles,
cries Peppa. Peppa and George want to play with bubbles all day.
Oh no,
gasps Peppa.
There's no more bubble mixture.
I have an idea, says Daddy Pig. Mummy Pig, please bring me a bucket. Peppa, bring me some washing up liquid. And George, please bring me my old tennis racket.
Mummy Pig, Peppa and George give everything to Daddy Pig. Daddy Pig fills the bucket with water. Then he adds the washing up liquid. Daddy Pig has made his own bubble mixture. Daddy Pig uses the racket as a giant bubble wand.
Come on, everyone!
Daddy Pig cries. Daddy Pig is making lots of bubbles as he runs. Don't slip and fall, shouts Mummy Pig.
I'll be fine,
says Daddy Pig, but he is running very fast. Oh no! Daddy Pig has fallen over. Are you all right, Daddy Pig? Says Mummy Pig.
Yes, I'm fine. Thank you, but I've spilt all my bubble mixture. I think it's gone up my nose,
says Daddy Pig. The bubble mixture makes Daddy sneeze.
Achoo!
Daddy, you've made the biggest bubble ever,
cries Peppa. Wow, says everyone.
But without the bubble mixture, we can't make any more bubbles,
says Peppa sadly. I have an idea, says Mummy Pig. The spilt mixture has made a muddy puddle for us to jump in.
The puddle is all bubbly,
gasps Peppa. Everyone loves jumping up and down in muddy, bubbly puddles. And that was Peppa Pig Bubbles. Peppa Pig, George's birthday. It's George's birthday. Mummy Pig hands George a box wrapped in green paper. Happy birthday, George, she says.
Dinosaur,
cries George, pulling out a purple dinosaur.
I knew it would be a dinosaur thingy,
says Peppa. George waves the toy dinosaur at Peppa.
Grrr! Too scary,
cries Peppa. Peppa has painted a card for George.
I was going to paint a flower,
says Peppa.
but George does not like flowers, so in the end I painted a dinosaur,
cries George. Mummy Pig tells George that they are going somewhere very special for his birthday treat.
Yippee! shouts Peppa. Where are we going?
You'll see,
says Daddy Pig. George's birthday treat is a visit to the dinosaur room at the museum. George loves dinosaurs. They are his favourite thing in the whole world.
Not silly old dinosaurs again,
groans Peppa. George stops in front of a big green dinosaur. He is standing on a yellow cross. There's a beep and then... Roar! George jumps and begins to cry. It's not real, George, says Mummy Pig. Don't be frightened.
It's just a robot,
says Daddy Pig. Grrr! shouts George at the Robo-Dino. And there's another surprise, says Mummy Pig. All of Peppa and George's friends are here.
Happy birthday, George,
says everyone. Mummy Rabbit has made a delicious birthday cake for George.
I knew it would be a dinosaur cake,
says Peppa. Mummy Rabbit laughs.
What an amazing guess, Peppa!
It's time for one last surprise,
says Daddy Pig.
Can you guess what it is?
Something to do with dinosaurs,
says Peppa. Everybody runs outside to see. It's a bouncy castle in the shape of a dinosaur. A bouncy dinosaur! George loves bouncy dinosaurs. And so does Peppa. And that was Peppa Pig, George's birthday. Horsey, Twinkle Toes. Peppa and George are playing in their bedroom.
Dinosaur! Grrr!
says George. Just then, the doorbell rings. Ding dong! It's Mr. Zebra, the postman, with a parcel.
It's probably that box of reinforced concrete I ordered,
says Daddy Pig. But it's not Daddy Pig's reinforced concrete. It's a parcel for Peppa and George.
Look at all those stamps,
says Peppa. A parcel! How exciting, says Mummy Pig. The parcel has come from Auntie Dotty, who lives in a different country, far away. She has sent a letter too. It says,
Dear Peppa and George, here is a present for you to share. Love from your Auntie Dotty.
Peppa and her family open the parcel. The present has wheels, legs, a tail, and a handle. Whatever can it be? Asks Mummy Pig. There's one last thing in the box. A horse's head! The present is a toy horse.
I shall call it Twinkle Toes,
says Peppa.
Horsey,
says George.
Twinkle Toes,
says Peppa.
Horsey,
says George.
The present is for both of you, says Daddy Pig. You will have to share it. Sharing can be fun.
Peppa and George take turns. George is the youngest, so he gets to go first. George likes playing with Horsey. Next, it's Peppa's turn. I'm Princess Peppa with my magic horse, Twinkle Toes. Peppa likes playing with Twinkle Toes. Peppa knocks over some boxes in the hallway. I think you should play where there's more space, says Mummy Pig. Daddy Pig thinks it's a bit steep for Peppa and George to play near the house.
I'll just ride it down to the bottom of the hill,
he says. Be careful, Daddy, shouts Peppa. Daddy Pig goes too fast and lands in the duck pond. Silly Daddy, says Peppa. Did you know you have a duck on your head? Asks Mummy Pig. Peppa pushes George round and round the duck pond. Horsey, says George. Twinkle Toes, says Peppa. It is lots of fun. I know, says Peppa. Because the present's for both of us, let's call it Horsey Twinkle Toes. What a good idea, say Mummy and Daddy Pig. And that was Peppa Pig, Horsey Twinkle Toes.
Peppa goes skiing. It is a lovely snowy day, and Peppa's family are going skiing. First, they have to take a ski lift all the way to the top of Snowy Mountain.
Oh, that looks a bit high,
says Daddy Pig. Daddy Pig does not like heights. Everyone gets on the ski lift. This is fun, calls Peppa, and she sings a little song. In the air, in a chair, snow is falling everywhere. Daddy Pig does not think it is fun. He doesn't like the way the ski lift clunks and clanks. At the top of Snowy Mountain, Daddy Pig falls out of his chair and into the snow. Are you all right, Daddy? Cries Peppa.
Oh, yes, Peppa,
says Daddy Pig.
Let's get you to your ski lesson.
Madame Gazelle starts the ski lesson. Peppa, George, and all their friends learn how to start and stop. Whee! Skiing is fun, cries Peppa as they go down the baby slope. Can we see you ski now, Madame Gazelle? Asks Peppa. Oh, I don't know, replies Madame Gazelle. Please, everyone cries. Oh, very well, says Madame Gazelle. Voila! Madame Gazelle does a magnificent ski jump. Everyone claps and cheers. That was amazing, says Peppa. Oh, thank you, says Madame Gazelle. I was the world champion at skiing, and I won this cup. Ooh, everyone says. Which mummy or daddy would like a go? Asks Madame Gazelle. I will, says Mummy Pig. Where does this path lead? Down the mountain, cries Madame Gazelle. Help! Where are the brakes? Shouts Mummy Pig.
She can't stop,
cries Daddy Pig.
Let's catch up with her. In the coach.
Mummy Pig skis down the mountain, along the road and past the shops. Eee! Stand back, cries Mummy Pig. She even does a loop-the-loop at top speed. Finally, everyone catches up with Mummy Pig. She has crashed straight into a snowdrift. You're a walking, talking snowman, Mummy. I have never seen such amazing skiing, says Madame Gazelle. This cup belongs to you now. Everyone cheers as Madame Gazelle presents Mummy Pig with her World Champion Cup. Hooray! Says Peppa. My mummy is a skiing champion. And that was Peppa Pig. Peppa goes skiing. Peppa goes to Scotland. One day, Peppa, George, Mummy and Daddy Pig set off for Scotland in their camper van. It was a long journey and Peppa sang all the way. We're going to Scotland, we're going to Scotland in a camper van. Soon the sat-nav started singing along as well. We're going to Scotland. Until finally... We have arrived in Scotland, announced the sat-nav. Hooray! Cheered Peppa and George. Look, Daddy, said Peppa, pointing to the top of a hill. There's a castle.
Shall we go and see it?
Asked Daddy Pig. Yes, said Peppa and George. They couldn't wait to explore. Yes, said Mummy Pig. She couldn't wait to get out of the camper van. At the entrance to the castle, Peppa and her family met Mr. McStag.
Welcome to the best castle in Scotland, he said proudly. And I, Mr. McStag, will show you around. But first, you must wear these.
Mr. McStag held up some kilts. I love my kilt, said Peppa. How's yours, Daddy?
It's a little draughty,
said Daddy Pig. Mr. McStag showed them round the castle. He took them to the throne room and up a secret staircase. Ooh-hoo! Called Peppa, listening for her echo. Ooh-hoo! Her echo replied. Then Mr. McStag told them about a mysterious creature that was said to live in the loch nearby.
But no one knows if it is real or a made-up story, he said.
Monster! Roar! Yelled George. Thank you for showing us the best castle in Scotland, said Peppa as they waved goodbye to Mr. McStag. Monster now? Asked George. We'll look for the monster tomorrow, George, said Mummy Pig. It's time for bed now. Luckily, George was just as excited about sleeping in the camper van. Yippee! The next morning, Peppa and her family sailed out onto the loch with their guide, Miss Rabbit. Is the monster real? Asked Peppa. No one's seen it in all my years of working here, said Miss Rabbit.
Look!
Gasped Daddy Pig.
There's the monster!
That's just a branch, Daddy, said Peppa.
Oh, Yes,
said Daddy Pig, a little embarrassed. Peppa pointed to the other end of the lock. "But that looks like the monster," she said. "OK," said Miss Rabbit. "I'll take us over there. Hold on tight, everyone." Miss Rabbit zoomed the boat over to the other side of the lock. But when they got closer, Peppa realised that she hadn't seen the monster. Just some rocks pointing out of the water. "Oh," she sighed. "Is that it over there?" asked Mummy Pig, pointing back to the far side of the lock. Miss Rabbit turned the boat round and zoomed back the way they came. Zoom! But when they got there, all they could see were a few plants in the water. "Oh," said Mummy Pig. Soon Miss Rabbit was zooming the boat round in circles all over the lock. "There it is! I'm sure of it!" "No, there it is!"
Oh, it's definitely over there!
"I think we should head back now," said Miss Rabbit. "We're all getting a bit dizzy." Miss Rabbit started to turn the boat round. As she did so, George, who had been sitting quietly the whole time, suddenly spotted something behind them. "Monster!" called George as loudly as he could. "Monster! Roar!" But everyone was too tired to look around. "We've stopped looking now, George," said Mummy Pig. "I don't think there's a monster here after all." All the way back to shore, George had lots of fun talking to the monster, who was following along behind them. No one else noticed a thing. "Roar!" said George. "Roar! Roar! Roar!" When Miss Rabbit docked the boat, everyone stepped out onto the jetty. George waved goodbye to the monster. "What are you waving at, George?" asked Mummy Pig. "Monster friend! Monster friend!" said George, jumping up and down. Everyone looked over and saw the monster. "Shiver me timbers!" gasped Miss Rabbit. "I didn't think it existed." "Wow!" gasped Peppa, Daddy and Mummy Pig. Just then, the monster dived down into the water and made a huge splash. Everybody got soaked. Everyone was very wet, but they were all very happy. Not only had they seen the monster, it had also made them lots of muddy puddles, cheered Peppa, jumping up and down. Peppa and George love Scotland. Scottish muddy puddles are the best. And that was Peppa Pig Goes to Scotland. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, be sure and like the video. And you know what? You could also subscribe to the channel. Read us a story. Thanks. Bye!